Sit back and enjoy an hour of fascinating facts you didn't know. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Let's get started. The hardest bone in the human body is the jawbone, also known as the mandible. It is also the largest and strongest bone in the human face. Its strength is due to the constant pressure it withstands while chewing, since it is involved in every movement of the mouth. In addition, it houses the lower teeth and plays a key role in functions such as speech and daily eating. In Albania, nodding your head means no and shaking your head means yes. This type of cultural difference in gestures can cause confusion for visitors, since it contradicts what many people consider universal. For that reason, travelers often rely more on words or context to avoid misunderstandings in everyday conversations. It is illegal in Mobile, Alabama to possess confetti. It is also illegal to store, use, manufacture, sell, offer for sale, give away, or even handle confetti. Monkey brains are considered a delicacy in parts of Southern Asia, Africa, and China. They are considered an easily digestible substance, often given to invalids and children, and there are even entire cookbooks dedicated to how to prepare them. In most European countries, including Great Britain, declawing a cat is illegal. If you are caught declawing a cat in Israel, you can be sent to jail for 1 year and fined $20,000. Scotland, Italy, New Zealand, and more than 30 other countries have also followed suit. It is actually possible to make the eyeball pop out of its socket, which is known as exophthalmos, by blowing your nose too hard, vomiting, or excessive coughing. The good news is that, if you are brave enough, you can simply place it back. Disney banned the use of selfie sticks in its parks due to safety concerns. The devices were already banned on rides, but selfie sticks pose a unique concern, as the extended arms could collide with ride mechanisms or hit another guest. Rhinotelexomania is the scientific word for nose picking. Rhino means nose, telex means habitual picking, and mania means frenzy or compulsion. The term is mainly used in medical and psychological contexts, especially when the behavior is compulsive. Tulips were once the most expensive flower. In the 1700s, tulips were more valuable than most people's homes and cost nearly 10 times what an average worker earned in a year. This phenomenon, known as tulip mania, was one of the first recorded economic bubbles, where prices rose uncontrollably before suddenly collapsing, causing major losses for many traders. The United States Department of Agriculture reported that the average American consumes between 150 and 170 pounds of refined sugar each year. Scorpions can survive being frozen and thawed, as well as extreme heat of up to 122 degrees Fahrenheit, and some species can even survive underwater for 2 full days. Their metabolism is very slow, which allows them to endure long periods without food and adapt to extreme conditions. In addition, they have a tough cuticle that helps retain moisture and protect their organs in harsh environments. Queen termites have a very long lifespan and are the oldest termites in the colony. They can live up to 50 years and produce eggs for up to 10 years. During that time, they can lay thousands of eggs per day in their most active stages, allowing the colony to grow rapidly. Their bodies expand over time to accommodate this reproductive capacity, and they remain protected in special chambers within the nest, constantly attended by other termites. Anne Hodges of Alabama is the only confirmed person in history to have been struck by a meteorite. On a clear day in November 1954, she was taking a nap on her couch when a piece of black rock the size of a softball crashed through her roof, bounced off a radio, and hit her in the thigh, leaving her with a pineapple-shaped bruise. The original filling of the Twinkie was actually banana-flavored. It was not until World War II that there was a shortage of bananas, so vanilla became the standard flavor. Even when the banana supply returned to normal, the vanilla version was already the most popular among consumers, so the company decided to keep it, and that is how it became the classic flavor known today. On April 14, 1986, Bangladesh was struck by the largest hailstones ever recorded, weighing more than 2.2 pounds each and killing 92 people. Some of these blocks of ice reached sizes comparable to small balls, which increased their devastating impact. This event remains one of the most extreme cases of hailstorms documented, showing how unpredictable and violent nature can be. It is estimated that poachers kill about 30,000 elephants each year to meet the global demand for ivory, according to a report from 2010. But as of July 2016, the United States has adopted a near-total ban on ivory. In fact, More than 1 ton of ivory was crushed in New York City as part of the United States government's plan to crack down on illegal trade. Humans shed their entire outer layer of skin every 2 to 4 weeks. We shed at a rate of about 500 million cells per day. This is the main contributor to household dust. Much of that material ends up accumulating on surfaces and fabrics, where it serves as food for tiny mites. These microorganisms are not visible to the naked eye, but they thrive especially in mattresses, pillows, and carpets, where they find warmth, moisture, and a constant source of skin debris. Elephants have the longest known pregnancy of any animal, lasting up to 680 days. In addition to being born with a highly developed brain, they also have a unique ovulation cycle and hormone levels unlike those of any other animal. Calves can stand within a few hours and recognize their mother by touch and smell, while the herd often participates in their care, increasing their chances of survival. It is possible to cry in outer space. However, your tears never fall. They simply stay there like a bubble under your eye. In microgravity, the liquid sticks to the skin due to surface tension and can grow to cover part of the eye, causing blurry vision. Some astronauts have commented that the sensation is uncomfortable, since you cannot easily wipe it away without the drop moving across your face or into your nose. WD-40 was invented by Norm Larsen in 1953. He was trying to develop a formula to prevent corrosion, a task accomplished by displacing water. WD stands for water displacement, and 40 refers to the fact that he finally succeeded on his 40th attempt. 1 in every 2 million lobsters is blue, but 1 in every 3 million can be yellow-orange, and even rarer are white lobsters. Each of these colors appears only about once every few years. These unusual shades are usually due to genetic variations that affect the pigments in their shells, and when they are caught, many fishermen choose to return them to the sea because of their rarity, turning them into small local celebrities. Believe it or not, fishing was the activity that accounted for the highest number of lightning strikes and deaths between 2006 and 2012. In fact, there were a total of 26 fishing-related deaths due to this. This is because it is often practiced in open spaces or on the water, where there is no nearby shelter and rods can act as conductors, increasing the risk during thunderstorms. On June 10, 1986, Michelle Funk, 2.5 years old, from Salt Lake City, fell into a creek near her home. When rescuers finally pulled her out of the creek more than an hour later, she had no pulse and was not breathing. Doctors connected her to a cardiopulmonary bypass machine and re-warmed her blood. Incredibly, when her blood finally reached 77 degrees Fahrenheit, she woke up and is still alive to this day. Artist Mark Quinn creates self-portraits using his own blood as the medium. He molds his own head in plaster mixed with 10 pints of his own blood and then immerses it in frozen silicone. He has been doing this every year since 1991 as a way to preserve the natural aging process, as well as a symbol of his dependence on alcohol. The band Nickelback got its name from Mike Kroger's experience as a cashier at a Starbucks. Customers would pay $1.50 for a coffee that only cost $1.45, so he always had to give them back a 5-cent coin, known as a nickel. The reason tires are black and not another color is because of a chemical added to them called carbon black. It is added to protect tires against damage from ozone and ultraviolet rays, and it drastically extends the life of any tire, which is why all tire manufacturers use it. The Indianapolis 500 has claimed more than 60 lives, at least one of them an innocent spectator. In 1931, an accident involving Billy Arnold sent a loose tire flying off the racetrack and across a street, where it struck and killed 11-year-old Wilbur Brink while he was playing in his front yard. In 2007, Harry Potter star Daniel Radcliffe wore the same clothes while leaving a theater in London for 6 months straight, so that paparazzi would end up with the same photos every day and therefore could not publish the images. There is a disorder called congenital amusia, where people cannot recognize common songs from their culture, cannot notice when notes are out of tune, and sometimes say that music sounds like banging noises. It is estimated to affect about 4% of the population and is not related to hearing, but rather to how the brain processes pitch and rhythm. Many people with this condition can enjoy other sounds, but have difficulty following melodies or remembering songs. Flamingos are pink because the algae and crustaceans, such as shrimp and prawns, that they eat contain pigments called carotenoids. Their liver breaks down the carotenoids into pink and orange pigment molecules that are deposited in their feathers, beaks, and legs. When they are well fed, their color can become more intense, while in captivity or with poor diets, they may appear paler if they do not receive those compounds. There is a restaurant called Sub-6, located at the Per Aquam Niama Resort in the Maldives, that sits 65.6 feet below the surface of the Indian Ocean. You can sit near floor-to-ceiling windows and watch schools of fish and more than 90 species of coral reef while you eat. In the 1996 movie Twister, the sound of a camel's groan was slowed down and used as the sound for the tornado. Sound designers mixed that audio with other effects to create a more unsettling and realistic feeling, since the natural sounds of a tornado do not always come across as impactful on screen. Koalas have fingerprints similar to those of humans. In fact, they are almost identical to human fingerprints. Not even careful analysis under a microscope can easily distinguish the circular ridges on koala fingers from ours. These markings help them grip eucalyptus branches and leaves while climbing, and they evolved independently, making them a curious case of convergent evolution. Cuba has a literacy rate of 99.8%, one of the highest in the entire world. This achievement is largely attributed to massive educational campaigns implemented since the 1960s, which brought education even to rural areas. In addition, free access to education has helped maintain these high levels over time. On January 21, 1977, on his first day in office, President Jimmy Carter fulfilled a campaign promise by granting unconditional pardons to hundreds of thousands of men who had evaded the draft during the Vietnam War by fleeing the country or failing to register. About 36,000 units of blood were donated to the New York Blood Center by people who wanted to help in the days following September 11th. Unfortunately, because blood cannot be used more than a few weeks after donation, many of those units had to be discarded. Originally, the traffic and train signal for go was white, and the caution signal was green. The choice of white for go caused many problems. For example, in 1914, one of the red lenses fell from its mount, leaving a white light exposed. This resulted in a train ignoring a stop signal and crashing into another train. So the railroad changed it so that green meant go and yellow was chosen for caution, mainly because it is the most distinct color from the other two. There is something called a moonbow, which is a rainbow that can be seen at night and occurs very rarely. For this to happen, a full moon is needed. It must be raining in the direction opposite the moon, the sky must be dark, and the moon must be less than 42 degrees high. Bison may seem slow and not very agile, but they can run at 35 miles per hour and jump up to 6 feet high. Despite their large size, they can also change direction with surprising speed, which makes them especially dangerous if they feel threatened. In many natural reserves, visitors are warned to keep their distance, as they can accelerate within seconds and cover ground much faster than it appears. Swindon, England, is home to what may be the most confusing-looking intersection ever created. The Magic Roundabout was designed by engineer Frank Blackmore of the British Transport and Road Research Laboratory in 1972 to help relieve traffic congestion. The interchange consists of 5 smaller, separate roundabouts that handle traffic in a clockwise direction, all positioned around a larger central roundabout that operates in a counterclockwise direction. And believe it or not, traffic congestion was significantly reduced. The American College of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology found that a bite from a Lone Star tick can cause you to develop an allergy to red meat, including beef and pork. If your nose becomes congested and starts to run after eating meat, or if you feel nauseous or develop a rash, you may have this allergy and should get checked for a tick bite. Pope Francis broke a record when he reached 1 million followers on Instagram in less than 12 hours after opening the account. The previous record was held by David Beckham with 1 million in 24 hours. He launched the account on a Saturday with a photo of himself kneeling in prayer with an accompanying message that said, "Pray for me," in 9 languages. The tallest tree in the world is currently Hyperion, a 379-foot-tall redwood in Redwood National Park in California. Its exact location is kept secret to protect it from excessive tourism and possible damage. It is estimated to be several centuries old, and its growth continues slowly thanks to the humid climate and frequent coastal fog that provides additional moisture even during dry periods. The Maricopa harvester ant is considered one of the most venomous insects in the world. 12 of their stings can kill a 4.4-pound animal. Their venom is highly toxic and is designed to defend the colony from predators. These ants typically live in arid areas, and when they feel threatened, They can attack in groups, greatly increasing the danger of their stings. There is a museum dedicated to wax representations of disfiguring diseases. The Moulage Museum in Switzerland is one of them. Civilizations as ancient as the ancient Egyptians used wax to record how people looked when they died. In the early 1700s, moulages were a well-known teaching method for medical students and doctors. Believe it or not, you consume 1/10 of a calorie by licking a United States postage stamp. But if you were to lick a stamp in Great Britain, it is 5.9 calories per lick. And the adhesive of a larger commemorative or special British stamp contains an astonishing 14.5 calories. It is possible to be allergic to the cold. This allergy, called cold urticaria, is an allergic response to cold temperatures that triggers hives, swelling, and itching. And if the allergy is severe enough, it can cause fainting, shock, or even death. And it has no cure. The Mutter Museum in Philadelphia has an exhibit of a woman's body that naturally turned into soap due to the chemicals in the soil where she was buried. This phenomenon, known as adipocere, occurs when body fats transform into a waxy substance under specific conditions of moisture and lack of oxygen. Cases like this have been studied by scientists to better understand processes of decomposition and natural preservation. On May 8, 2010, actress Betty White, who was 88 years old at the time, became the oldest person to host Saturday Night Live. Her appearance was driven by a social media campaign started by fans, which generated massive support online. The episode had one of the highest ratings of that season and was widely praised, further solidifying her popularity among new generations. Gatorade was named after the Florida Gators. In 1965, a team of university doctors in Florida was contacted by an assistant football coach from the University of Florida because he wanted to find out why his players were being affected by heat and heat-related illnesses. They ended up creating the drink Gatorade that balanced carbohydrates and electrolytes. The sound of velociraptors communicating with each other in the movie Jurassic Park was actually the sound of turtles mating. Sound designers combined and modified that audio to create more unsettling and believable vocalizations, since there are no real recordings of dinosaurs. Octopuses, squids, and salmon die shortly after giving birth. For the most part, males die soon after fertilizing the female's eggs, and females only live long enough to give birth to their offspring before dying. The human aorta is the largest artery in the human body and is approximately the size of a garden hose. From the heart, it distributes oxygen-rich blood throughout the body through its main branches. Its walls are elastic, which allows it to withstand the pressure of each heartbeat and help maintain a steady flow even between contractions of the heart. Gangsta's Paradise is one of the few songs by Coolio that does not contain any profanity, because it was the only way Stevie Wonder would approve the sampling of his song, Pastime Paradise. At Crater Lake in Central Oregon, there is a floating tree trunk known as the Old Man of the Lake that has been bobbing completely upright in the lake for more than 100 years. It has been referenced in writings since 1896. On July 5, 1996, the first mammal was successfully cloned. Dolly the sheep was cloned from an adult cell at the Roslin Institute in Scotland. She was named after Dolly Parton because she was cloned from a mammary cell. The average sloth travels only 123 feet per day. That is less than half the length of an American football field. I'm going as fast as I can. Its slow movement is due to its low metabolism, since its leaf-based diet provides very little energy. In addition, it spends most of its time in trees, moving cautiously to avoid predators and conserve energy. The coldest inhabited place on Earth is Oymyakon in Russia. The average temperature there in January is minus 59.8 degrees Fahrenheit, and its record low is minus 95.8 degrees Fahrenheit in February. Despite those extreme conditions, the community remains permanently inhabited, with schools only closing in even more severe situations and vehicles often kept running to prevent fuel from freezing. There is a breed of dog called the Basenji that does not have the ability to bark. However, it can produce a yodel-like sound. It is a small to medium-sized dog, square in shape, that is believed to have been intentionally bred without the ability to bark. Leopards are solitary animals that prefer to hunt and live alone, and they only come together with other leopards to mate. In addition, they can eat animals that are twice their size. Dogs love anise grass in the same way that cats love catnip. In fact, anise is the scent of the artificial rabbit used in greyhound racing to make the dogs run. In Singapore, the import or sale of chewing gum is illegal unless you have a medical reason to need it. This rule was introduced in the 1990s to prevent issues such as sticky residue in public transportation and urban spaces. Today, only certain types of therapeutic gum can be sold under regulation, such as those used to quit smoking, keeping the city notably clean. During the filming of The Wolf of Wall Street, actor Jonah Hill inhaled so much fake cocaine, which was vitamin D powder, that he ended up getting sick with bronchitis for 6 weeks. To achieve more realistic scenes, the crew used large amounts of that powder across multiple takes, which ultimately affected his respiratory system. Hill mentioned in interviews that the experience was uncomfortable and that he had to receive medical treatment while continuing with production. In March 1974, local farmers in Shanxi province in China were drilling for water when they discovered an underground chamber containing more than 8,000 life-size warrior figures made of terracotta. They belonged to the first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang, who ordered the construction of the figures in the year 246 before Christ in preparation for his own burial, and he was only 13 years old at the time. Mosquitoes can detect carbon dioxide from 75 feet away. In fact, that is how they find their victims, specifically you. Chewing gum causes an increase in saliva, which increases swallowing, which increases the amount of air you swallow, which makes you pass gas. The first video ever broadcast on MTV was Video Killed the Radio Star by the Buggles on August 1st, 1981. Researchers exploring the northwestern Hawaiian Islands aboard the Okeanos Explorer came across the largest sea sponge in the world. It was found at 22,966 feet below the surface of the ocean and measured 12 feet long and 7 feet wide. There are actually 3 different types of tears. Basal tears keep the eyes lubricated. Irritant or reflex tears occur when something gets into your eye. And emotional tears, of course, occur during moments of intense feeling. John Ratzenberger, known for his role as Cliff Clavin on the hit television comedy Cheers, is the only actor who has voiced characters in every Pixar film. Camels actually have 3 eyelids to protect their eyes from blowing sand. The upper and lower eyelids have eyelashes. However, there is a third one that is a thin membrane through which they can see even in a sandstorm. A galactic year, also known as a cosmic year, is the duration of a complete rotation of the Milky Way, which is approximately 200 million Earth years. A human taste bud has an average lifespan of 7 to 10 days. Taste bud cells undergo continuous renewal even in adulthood, but taste buds in rats last from 2 days to more than 3 weeks. This constant turnover helps maintain sensitivity to flavor, although factors such as age, smoking, or certain diseases can reduce the ability to regenerate and affect the perception of taste. The Moomin House Cafe in Bunkyo, Tokyo offers coffee, treats, and the company of a large stuffed animal. In fact, you will be seated with a plush companion so that you do not have to dine alone. LG in LG Corporation stands for Lucky Gold Star, which is its former name, and it is also the abbreviation of the company's slogan, Life's Good. According to Universe Today, the distance between the surface and the center of the Earth is about 3,963 miles. That measurement corresponds to the equatorial radius, since the Earth is not a perfect sphere, but slightly flattened at the poles. In comparison, the polar radius is a bit smaller, which means the distance varies depending on the point from which it is measured. This difference is small, but important for geographic and satellite calculations. There were 13 couples celebrating their honeymoon on the Titanic. However, none of them survived the impact and the subsequent sinking of the ship. There is a solar facility at Walt Disney World in Lake Buena Vista, Florida, that consists of 48,000 solar panels and is shaped like Mickey Mouse. Mark Zuckerberg's X and Pinterest accounts were hacked by a group called Our Mine. Apparently, his password was incredibly da. Singer Billy Joel has performed more concerts at Madison Square Garden than any other artist. Leonardo da Vinci was dyslexic. In addition, interestingly, not because of his dyslexia, he chose to write all his notes for himself backward in mirror writing, which means you can only read them in the reflection of a mirror. However, the notes he wrote for other people were written in a normal direction. Donald Trump became the oldest president in the history of the United States when he took office again in 2025 at 78 years old, surpassing the record that had been set by Joe Biden when he began his term in 2021 at the same age, although Trump surpassed it by a few months. Jessica Cox, born in 1983 in Sierra Vista, Arizona, was born without arms due to a rare birth defect, but went on to become the first pilot in history to fly without arms. A company based in Silicon Valley called Got It developed an app with the same name. If a high school student got stuck on a question, they could send it to the app and have tutors bid on an answer. When the student accepted the offer, which usually cost around $1, they received a tutoring session of about 10 minutes through text message. Dolphins cannot chew their food. Their teeth are only used to grab food, and they will shake it and rub it against the ocean floor to break it into smaller, more manageable pieces. Afterward, they usually swallow the pieces whole, since their digestive system is adapted to process them without chewing. In addition, many species cooperate when hunting, surrounding schools of fish to make them easier to catch. There is a museum in Croatia filled with 507 stuffed frogs. Froggyland showcases the work of 20th century Hungarian taxidermist Ferenc Mere, who spent 10 years carefully stuffing and arranging the frogs. The common housefly does not have a mouth. Instead, it has a feeding tube through which it vomits a drop of fluid from its stomach onto its food. It then sucks up the fluid along with the nutrients it dissolved, leaving behind a large number of germs. According to a study conducted by Common Sense Media and its chief executive, James Steyer, the average teenager spends up to 9 hours a day on social media. Before Samuel L. Jackson became a movie star, he was a stand-in for Bill Cosby on The Cosby Show. In 2013, PayPal accidentally placed more than $92 quadrillion into the account of public relations executive Chris Reynolds. PayPal admitted its mistake and offered to donate money to a cause of Reynolds' choosing. Lobsters are capable of regenerating lost eyes, claws, and antennae. You can also determine the gender of a lobster by looking at its pleopods, the small feathery appendages on the underside of its tail. The first pair of pleopods, the ones closest to the body, are hard and bony in a male, and soft and feathery in a female. A frog's tongue is approximately 1/3 the length of its entire body. In comparison, if a human had a tongue of the same proportion, it would reach down to our navel. In addition, it is attached at the front of the mouth, which allows it to project outward with great speed to catch prey. Its surface is sticky and can retract in fractions of a second, making it easier to capture moving insects. Arachibutyrophobia is the name for the fear of peanut butter sticking to the roof of your mouth. Although it sounds unusual, this type of specific phobia is often related to uncomfortable experiences or unpleasant sensations. On May 15, 1809, a woman from Connecticut named Mary Keese became the first American woman to receive a patent. Her innovation was making a hat by weaving silk or thread into straw, creating an appealing look that became a passing trend. Venus and Uranus are the only planets that rotate clockwise. The other 6 planets in the solar system rotate counterclockwise. In the case of Venus, its rotation is extremely slow, since a Venusian day lasts longer than its own year, while Uranus spins almost on its side, with a pronounced tilt that causes extreme and prolonged seasons. Researchers from the University of Oxford and the University of Queensland discovered that the small tropical archerfish can be trained to accurately recognize human faces. When researchers showed 2 faces side by side on a screen above a fish tank, one familiar and one unfamiliar, the fish was able to recognize the same face 81% of the time in color and even more accurately in black and white images. The children's game Ring Around the Rosie refers to the Great Plague of London in 1665. The ring around the rosy refers to the pink ring-shaped rash that someone with the plague would develop. The pocketful of posies refers to the fact that people filled their pockets and bags with sweet-smelling herbs or bouquets because it was believed that the disease was spread through bad smells. A man named Luke Irwin unknowingly came across an astonishing discovery buried beneath his newly purchased property in Wiltshire, England. While an electrician he hired was drilling into the ground, he struck a layer of intricate red, white, and blue mosaic tiles. It turned out that the Irwin residence was built on top of one of the largest and best-preserved Roman villas ever found in Britain. The longest solar eclipse of the 21st century lasted 6 minutes and 39 seconds, and it will not be surpassed in duration until the eclipse on June 13, 2132. This type of prolonged total eclipse occurs when the geometry between the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun is almost perfect, allowing the Moon's shadow to cover the surface for a longer period than usual in certain regions. Approximately 1,500 earthquakes are recorded in Japan each year. This is because the country is located in the so-called Pacific Ring of Fire, a zone with intense tectonic activity where several plates meet and constantly move. For this reason, Japan has developed some of the most advanced earthquake-resistant technologies in the world, including buildings designed to absorb and dissipate the energy of tremors. Some of the oldest sunglasses in the world were discovered on Baffin Island in northern Canada. They were created by the Inuit of the Arctic. Also known as snow goggles, they were made from bone, leather, or wood with small slits for vision, designed to protect the eyes from snow blindness caused by the sun. Baby seahorses eat up to 3,000 pieces of food per day. They have such a voracious appetite because they do not have stomachs, and their digestive system has been described as inefficient, which means they must eat a lot to stay properly nourished. New research published in the journal Meteoritics and Planetary Science confirmed that the blade of the dagger found in the tomb of Tutankhamun is made from materials of a meteorite. Scientists performed X-ray fluorescence spectrometry on it, which is a method used to learn more about the elements of an object and what it is composed of. It was found to contain iron, nickel, and cobalt, all materials found in pieces of space rocks. There is a law in Pacific Grove, California, that prohibits disturbing monarch butterflies. Seriously, Ordinance 11.48.010 states that it is declared unlawful for any person to disturb or interfere in any way with the peaceful occupation of the monarch butterfly during its annual visit to the city of Pacific Grove, and it continues like this for several more lines. The Louvre Museum has remained the most visited museum in the world in recent years. After the drop in tourism in 2020, it quickly regained its leadership, reaching around 8 to 9 million visitors annually between 2022 and 2025, solidifying itself as the most visited museum on the planet through 2026. The largest stadium in the world is the Ringrado 1st of May Stadium, located in Pyongyang, North Korea. Completed on May 1, 1989, it is used for sporting events, but is most famous for hosting the annual Mass Games, an artistic and gymnastic event with more than 100,000 participants. After years of campaigning by conservationists, in May 2016, President Obama signed the National Bison Legacy Act, making the American bison the official mammal of the United States. It is the first official mammal recognized by the federal government. The automotive industry used to use whale sperm oil to lubricate new cars. In fact, the material worked so well that these enormous mammals were hunted nearly to extinction, so the United States declared sperm whales an endangered species and switched to a new whale-free automatic transmission fluid. The national anthem of Spain, the Marcha Real, has no lyrics. It is one of the few anthems in the world that is performed only with music, which has led to several attempts over the years to add official lyrics, although none have been adopted. Even so, its melody is widely recognized and used in official events and sporting competitions. There is a monument in Israel called the September 11th Living Memorial Plaza, which was initiated and designed by Eliezer Weishaupt. It was completed in 2009 for $2 million and sits on a hill overlooking the largest cemetery in Jerusalem. It is a 30-foot bronze American flag that forms the shape of a flame to commemorate the flames of the Twin Towers. The base is made from steel cast from the remains of the original World Trade Center. Around the monument are plaques with the names of the victims of September 11th. According to a study conducted in 2007 by Marshall McHugh, a researcher in the Department of Biological Sciences at the University of Arkansas, the intense hunger of snakes can cause them to actually digest their own heart muscle. However, immediately after a nutritious meal, snake hearts can quickly rebuild. The 31st President of the United States, Herbert Hoover, did not spend any of his salary on himself and instead gave it to charitable organizations or as income supplements for his associates. The American company Cabot Guns has manufactured the first firearm made almost entirely from a piece of the Gibeon meteorite that crashed into Earth approximately 4,500 million years ago. The meteorite was originally found in Namibia in the 1830s. Cornell University discovered that the tiger beetle runs so fast that it can no longer see where it is going. In fact, it has to use its antenna to avoid obstacles. During its bursts of speed, its eyes stop processing images continuously, so it moves in short segments, briefly stopping to reorient itself before continuing. This movement pattern makes it one of the most efficient predators among terrestrial insects. In California, there is a law that prohibits a driverless vehicle from exceeding 60 miles per hour. Companies that manufacture autonomous cars have the technology to make them go much faster, but they must limit them based on this law. In Sweden, blood banks send text messages to blood donors to notify them every time their blood helps save a life. This system was implemented to increase donor motivation and strengthen the connection to the process. Many participants have noted that receiving that message creates a more personal connection to the impact of their donation and encourages them to donate again more frequently. The largest tire graveyard in the world is in Sulaybia, Kuwait. Each year, giant holes are dug in the desert and filled with old tires. There are already 7 million tires there, and the landfill is so large that it is visible from space. For years, it has represented an environmental risk due to potential fires and pollution. So recently, projects have been launched to recycle much of those tires and reduce their impact in the area. Until 1564, the French celebrated the New Year between March 25th and April 1st. But when the new Gregorian calendar was introduced, the festival was moved to January 1st. Those who resisted the change became the victims of pranks, including invitations to non-existent New Year's parties on April 1st, and that is why we celebrate April Fool's Day on April 1st. Believe it or not, you can determine the outside temperature by counting the chirps made by crickets. According to the Farmer's Almanac, to convert cricket chirps into degrees Celsius, you count the number of chirps in 25 seconds, divided by 3, and then add 4 to get the temperature. The first electric traffic light was installed on August 5, 1914, at the corner of East 105th Street in Cleveland, Ohio, based on the design of James Hodge, who received a United States patent for his municipal traffic control system. It consisted of 4 pairs of red and green lights that served as stop-and-go indicators, each mounted on a corner post. Researchers who were training monkeys to recognize themselves in mirrors discovered that the first thing the monkeys did was check all the parts of their bodies they had never seen before, especially the area of their genitals. The researchers found them contorting and spreading their legs in front of the mirror to better see the parts of their bodies they had not previously seen. Kinder Surprise chocolate eggs, made by the Italian company Ferrero, are actually illegal in the United States. The United States Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act prohibits all candies with non-nutritive objects embedded inside. If you bring one into the United States, you could be fined up to $1,200 per egg. When flying in flocks, flamingos can fly as fast as 35 miles per hour. They may appear awkward in the air, however, this is because their long necks stretch out in front of their bodies and their long legs hang far beyond their short tails. The 7 rays in the crown of the Statue of Liberty each represent the 7 continents. Each one measures 9 feet long and weighs up to 150 pounds. In addition, its total height is 305 feet from its base. It has a waist of 35 feet and it weighs 225 tons. Punt guns are a type of weapon that were first used in 1800. They were used in the commercial hunting of waterfowl, and these weapons fired shots of nearly 1 pound that could kill from 50 to 100 birds in a single shot. The guns had bores of more than 2 inches in diameter, weighed more than 99 pounds, and measured nearly 10 feet in length. Those are some big weapons. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson released a motivational alarm clock. He created the app to help you get out of bed and achieve your personal goals. And the best part is that there is no snooze button. There are 25 ringtones to choose from that were created by The Rock himself. For example, there is one that is just a mix of sounds from his dog, a couple where he simply keeps repeating the words beep and ring ring, and another where he smashes a harp. The origin of the game hopscotch began in ancient Britain during the Roman Empire. The original courts were 98 feet long and were used for military training exercises. Soldiers would run in full armor and field packs to improve their footwork. Roman children drew their own smaller courts and added a scoring system, and that is how hopscotch was born and spread throughout Europe. Pluto takes 241 years to orbit the Sun. This is because Pluto orbits at an average distance of 3,700 million miles from the Sun, while Earth orbits at only 93 million miles. In addition, its orbit is very elliptical, so at certain times it comes closer to the Sun than Neptune. Because of this distance and trajectory, temperatures on its surface are extremely low, and its year is one of the longest in the solar system. The gadget was the first atomic bomb ever made and was tested at Trinity Site, New Mexico on July 16, 1945. The test, codenamed Trinity, was successful, releasing an explosion with the energy of about 20 kilotons of TNT. On January 1, 1976, the day relaxed marijuana laws went into effect in California, Danny Finegood, an art student at Cal State Northridge, and some of his friends took $50 worth of fabric to the Hollywood sign and changed it to read Hollyweed. They used the prank as a school project, which earned them a grade of A. Because the primary purpose of marriage for ancient people was to produce children, they would bathe the new bride in symbols of fertility, such as grains of wheat. The Romans would bake this wheat into small cakes to eat in a tradition known as convivarium, which means eating together. Guests at the ceremony would throw handfuls of honey-coated nuts and dried fruits called confetti, and that is how the tradition of throwing confetti at weddings began. There are more bicycles than people in Copenhagen, and 5 times more bicycles than cars. More than 50% of the city's residents commute by bicycle, and more than 41% travel to work or school by bike. There is a phenomenon known as heteropaternal superfecundation that is so rare that only a handful of cases have been documented in the world. The phenomenon occurs when twins have 2 different fathers. This can happen if a woman releases more than 1 egg in the same cycle and they are fertilized by sperm from different men within a short period of time. Although extremely unusual, it has been confirmed through genetic testing in some recent cases. Dr. Wuzong Ju from the University of St. Andrews discovered that approximately 1,500,000 diamond nanoparticles are created in a candle flame every second it burns. Unfortunately, they burn up during the process. However, it is believed that this discovery could lead to research on how diamonds could be created more economically. Octopuses will actually break off a limb as part of a fight to impress a mate or to escape from a predator. They will also eat their own arms from time to time, which some scientists believe may be due to some kind of illness. The island in the television show Gilligan's Island was created in Hollywood in the middle of an artificial lake on the CBS studio lot. The set cost $75,000 to build and had artificial palm trees mixed with real plants and flowers. It is actually possible to change the shape of some babies' ears. Some of them have a condition where the upper part of the cartilage in the ear is essentially folded, causing the top ridge to appear rounded. However, there is a mold called earwell that can reshape a baby's ear in about 6 weeks. The dwarf lantern shark, according to Guinness World Records, is the smallest shark in the world. A male measures only about 6.3 inches in length. It lives in deep waters of the Caribbean and has bioluminescent organs that allow it to emit a faint light, possibly to camouflage itself or communicate in the darkness of the ocean. Its tiny size makes it difficult to study, so many aspects of its behavior are still unknown. In 2002, O.J. Simpson was charged and fined $65 for creating a wake in a manatee zone with his boat in a Florida bay. There is a very rare disease called Klein-Levin syndrome, or Sleeping Beauty syndrome, where those affected sleep up to 20 hours a day for days, weeks, or even months at a time, waking only to use the bathroom or eat. During episodes, they may also experience confusion, behavioral changes, and an altered perception of reality. Between episodes, people usually return to normal, which makes the disorder even more puzzling for those who have it. In the original book, The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy's magical slippers were actually silver. They were changed to ruby red for the Technicolor film because it was believed they would stand out better against the yellow brick road. The largest indoor beach in the world is called Tropical Islands Resort in Krausnick, Germany. Built inside a former aircraft hangar, it contains a forest of 50,000 plants that extends over an area of 107,639 square feet, a spa, a waterfall, a hot tub, and a water slide. In fact, it is large enough to fly a hot air balloon inside. According to the World Health Organization, it is estimated that 350 million people worldwide suffer from depression. It is also one of the leading causes of disability globally and is a major contributor to the overall global burden of disease. Angela Stoger from the University of Vienna, Austria, discovered that giraffes can hum. The humming is a low-frequency sound at about 92 hertz. This type of vocalization occurs mainly at night, when the environment is quieter, suggesting that it may serve to maintain contact between individuals over long distances. Due to its low frequency, These sounds can travel better through the air and go unnoticed by potential predators. There is a phenomenon called crown shyness, in which, in some species of trees, their canopies, when fully grown, do not touch each other. The treetops form channel-like gaps, and the strangest part is that scientists are not sure why it happens. The planet Neptune has the strongest winds in our solar system, with winds reaching up to 1,304 miles per hour. To put that into context, hurricane winds on Earth reach speeds of only 74 miles per hour. That is 18 times faster. These extreme currents occur despite Neptune receiving very little energy from the Sun, which has intrigued scientists for decades. In addition, enormous dark storms have been observed appearing and disappearing over time, some comparable in size to Earth. There is a place in Arizona called the Boneyard that is the final resting place of about 3,000 military aircraft, some of them up to 60 years old. They are literally left there and gradually harvested for spare parts over time. The dry desert climate helps preserve the materials by preventing corrosion, and many of these aircraft are also kept in conditions that allow them to be reactivated if necessary. In 1872, Victoria Woodhull was the first woman to run for president. She ran as the candidate of the Equal Rights Party against Ulysses S. Grant. This was almost 50 years before the 19th Amendment granted women the right to vote. According to a survey by the American Psychological Association, the most stressed people in the United States are millennials, who are individuals between the ages of 18 and 35, women, parents with children under 18 years old, and low-income households. The main source of stress was money. In ancient Greece, throwing an apple at someone was a symbolic way to declare love for that person. This is because, in Greek mythology, the goddess Eris became upset after being excluded from a wedding and, in retaliation, threw a golden apple inscribed for the fairest at the wedding party. It was then claimed by Aphrodite and thus became a symbol of love. Summer on the planet Uranus lasts 42 years, followed by 42 years of winter. It is the tilt of the Earth that gives us our seasons, but Uranus is tilted much more on its side relative to its poles, which explains the duration of its seasons. Astronaut Neil Armstrong's lunar suit was designed by the women's bra manufacturer Playtex. The company contributed its expertise in precision stitching and flexible materials, necessary to create a suit that was durable while still allowing movement. In fact, each suit included multiple layers sewn by hand, which helped protect the astronaut from extreme temperatures, radiation, and micrometeorites during the mission. In the French city of Valenciennes, a couple named their baby Nutella. A judge ruled that it was not in the best interest of the child to carry that name since it was the name of a spread, and when the parents did not appear in court, the girl was renamed Ella. In 2016, the governor of Florida, Rick Scott, approved a bill that legalizes forced entry into any closed vehicle to rescue a pet or vulnerable person believed to be in imminent danger of suffocation. This was necessary because up to 32 people die each year in Miami from hot car deaths. There is an exhibit at the Isle of Wight Zoo in the United Kingdom dedicated to poop. It features feces from the animal world and the human world. It also features fossilized poop called coprolites that date back 140 million years. Researchers from Manchester Metropolitan University in the United Kingdom discovered that mice do not like cheese as much as we think. They prefer fruits and grains much more. The idea that they loved cheese so much spread through popular culture and cartoons. According to a study conducted by St. Michael's Hospital, nearly half of the homeless men who participated in the study have suffered at least one traumatic brain injury in their lifetime. 87% of those injuries occurred before they lost their homes. A study in the journal Current Biology found that people who exercise 4 hours after learning something new retain the information better 2 days later than those who exercise immediately or do not exercise at all. This effect is believed to be related to memory consolidation processes in the brain, where physical activity may strengthen neural connections at a more optimal time after learning. The 2-letter abbreviation OK first appeared in the Boston Morning Post on March 23, 1839, as a joke. When it appeared in print, it was intended to be an abbreviation of all correct, the then humorous misspelling of all correct. It appeared in newspapers and in the presidential campaign of 1840, and after that, we have continued using it to this day. Instead of keeping your deceased loved one in an urn on the mantelpiece, now, thanks to the company BiosUrn, You can preserve them in the form of a tree. BIOS created BIOS Incube, which is an incubator that monitors and grows trees from human ashes in people's homes. McDonald's Hamburger University trains students in restaurant management skills and has more than 275,000 graduates. But it is no joke. With a 1% acceptance rate at its Shanghai campus, this intense one-week training program is more exclusive than Harvard. On July 13, 1955, nightclub owner Ruth Ellis was the last woman executed for murder in Great Britain. She was hanged for killing her boyfriend, and it was not until 1965 that the death penalty for murder was abolished in England, Scotland, and Wales. A handful of British companies now offer paid time off for pet parenthood to care for a needy animal. This policy, sometimes called paternity leave, aims to help employees adjust to the arrival of a new pet in the home, especially during the first days. Some companies have adopted it as part of their employee benefits to improve well-being and reduce stress, reflecting how pets are increasingly considered part of the family. On January 15, 1919, a storage tank burst on the coast of Boston, releasing nearly 2 million gallons of molasses in a wave 15 feet high and 160 feet wide. It rushed through the north end of the city at 35 miles per hour, killing 21 people and injuring many others. It was so powerful that it even swept a train off its tracks and knocked down electrical poles. In 2009, in the jungle of the Philippines, scientists discovered a new species of pitcher plant. It is the largest carnivorous plant ever discovered. It is called Nepenthes attenboroughi, named after Sir David Attenborough. Other carnivorous plants eat things like insects and spiders, but this one is so large that it actually eats rats. Comedian Nathan Fielder, star of the Comedy Central show Nathan for You, opened a parody coffee shop called Dumb Starbucks as a television stunt. Horses can sleep while standing up. This is due to the way their legs are structured. They have ligaments and a mechanism that allows them to doze without collapsing. This mechanism, called the stay apparatus, allows them to lock their joints and rest with minimal energy expenditure. Even so, to reach deep sleep, they usually lie down briefly, although they only do so when they feel completely safe. Before mating, the female giraffe will urinate into the male's mouth. From the taste of her urine, the male can determine whether she is in heat or not. This behavior is part of a biological response known as the Fleeman response, in which the male analyzes chemical signals to detect reproductive status. After this, he usually lifts his upper lip and stretches his neck, a characteristic posture that helps him better process those stimuli. The television show All in the Family was the first primetime program to feature the sound of a flushing toilet. For much of television history, it was taboo to even show a bathroom, let alone include any kind of bathroom sound. This show helped change that. In 2012, street artist Megs turned an old bridge in Wuppertal, Germany into a giant Lego structure by using colored panels to create the illusion of the underside of Lego bricks. According to researchers at the Washington University School of Medicine in St. Louis, mothers who provide support and affection during their children's preschool years can increase the growth of their children's brains. They found that children who were nurtured in their early years had a larger hippocampus, the part of the brain linked to learning, memory, and emotional regulation. Melba toast and peach Melba are named after the most famous opera singer of the late Victorian era, Dame Nellie Melba. Author J.K. Rowling, who wrote the Harry Potter series, also writes crime novels under the name Robert Galbraith. The books she has published under her pseudonym include The Silkworm and Cuckoo's Calling. Mahatma Gandhi never won the Nobel Peace Prize, despite being nominated 5 times between 1937 and 1948. This is despite being one of the strongest symbols of nonviolence in the world, and one of the most respected. August 13th is officially Left-Handers Day. This date began to be celebrated in the 1970s to recognize left-handed people and highlight the challenges they face in a world designed mainly for right-handed individuals. Today, it is also used to promote more inclusive tools and raise awareness about differences in handedness. Evel Knievel, the pioneer of long-distance motorcycle jumps, suffered 433 bone fractures and holds the world record for the most bones broken in a lifetime. Throughout his career, he performed more than 75 documented jumps, many of them with failed landings that contributed to those injuries. Despite this, his fame grew thanks to his televised performances, which made him an icon of risk and motorcycle entertainment. Until 2013, If you were found trafficking drugs in Singapore, you were given a mandatory death sentence. When it comes to strict drug laws, Singapore had and still has some of the strictest of any country in the world. There is a complex in Finland called Kakslautan Arctic Resort, where your accommodations are glass igloos. These igloos are designed with special materials that prevent the glass from freezing, allowing you to observe the sky even in extreme temperatures. During certain times of the year, visitors can see the northern lights from bed, while the resort also offers experiences such as reindeer safaris and dog sled rides. In a new study published in an entomology journal, a research team from the University of Florida and Union College discovered that bedbugs love the colors black and red and hate yellow and green. The letter Q is the only letter of the alphabet that does not appear in the name of any state or territory of the United States. Interestingly, although it is not part of those names, it does appear in many cities, counties, and surnames within the country. In addition, in English, it is almost always followed by the letter U, which makes it one of the least used letters compared to others in the alphabet. Google was originally called Backrub. The name referred to its link analysis system, which evaluated how pages pointed to each other to determine their relevance. It later adopted the name Google, inspired by the word Google, which represents a 1 followed by 100 zeros, reflecting the enormous amount of information it aimed to organize on the web. The founder of IKEA, Ingvar Fyodor Kamprad, began his career at the age of 6 selling matches. At the age of 10, he rode around his neighborhood on his bicycle selling Christmas decorations. Then, at the age of 17, he earned money selling fish and pencils. Finally, after his father gave him a small amount of money for doing well in school, he founded IKEA. The Amazon rainforest is home to 427 mammals, 1,300 birds, 378 reptiles, and more than 400 amphibians. In addition, it hosts millions of insect species and an enormous variety of plants, many still unclassified. It is estimated that a single 2.47 acres can contain hundreds of different types of trees, making it one of the most biologically diverse ecosystems on the planet. There is a hotel in Bolivia called Palacio de Sal that is made up of 1 million blocks of compressed salt grains measuring 14 inches. Even the furniture is made of salt. It is located near the Uyuni Salt Flat, one of the largest salt deserts in the world, and many of its structures must be kept dry to prevent wear. Visitors can sleep in rooms completely built from this material, making it a unique experience. The depression in the facial structure of your skull, between your eyes and above the bridge of your nose, is called the nasion. Cosmetic surgeons rely heavily on the type of nasion a person has when planning a rhinoplasty, also known as nose surgery. 29% of the Earth's surface is land, and 71% is covered by oceans. Most of that water is located in the southern hemisphere, which results in some regions having vast marine expanses with very few islands. In addition, the oceans play a key role in regulating the climate by absorbing heat and distributing it through global currents. The largest species of earthworm in the world can be found in Gippsland in southeastern Australia. The Gippsland giants can grow up to 10 feet long. It lives underground in moist soil and can produce audible sounds as it moves, something unusual for earthworms. Due to its slow growth and limited habitat, it is a protected species and is rarely seen on the surface. If you live in Australia, you are 20 times more likely to drown than to be bitten by a shark. In fact, to put it into perspective, you are significantly more likely to win the lottery jackpot than to be involved in any kind of shark incident. Humans are friends, not food. There are hundreds of stone slabs scattered along the coasts of Japan that give advice. These warnings include, high dwellings are the peace and harmony of our descendants. Remember the calamity of the great tsunamis. Do not build any homes below this point. And also, if an earthquake comes, beware of tsunamis. In fact, some of these markers are more than 600 years old. In 1998, Kevin Warwick, a professor of cybernetics at the University of Reading, became the world's first technical cyborg. He implanted a radio frequency identification device in his arm and was able to turn on lights by snapping his fingers. According to the World Health Organization, there are 360 million people in the world with disabling hearing loss. That is about 5% of the entire global population. 32 million of them are children between 0 and 14 years old. Fortunately, there are things like subtitles, just like in this video. In New Zealand, it is illegal to own only one guinea pig because they are very social creatures. In fact, there are matchmaking services to find a partner for your guinea pig if its companion dies, which is part of broader animal welfare legislation first introduced in 2008. The smallest commercial flight in the world is from Westray Airport to Papa Westray Airport, between two small Orkney Islands north of Scotland. It is only a distance of 1.7 miles, and if the wind is ideal, it can take as little as 47 seconds from start to finish. In ancient Rome, women believed that if you wore a leather pouch containing a cat's liver on your left foot during intercourse, it would prevent pregnancy. Australia has the largest uranium resource in the world with 31%. With around 12% of the world's annual production, it is the third largest producer after Kazakhstan and Canada. In 2006, an analysis of cat tongues showed that they do not have taste receptors that respond to sweet flavors. Every feline, from lions and tigers to the domestic cat, cannot taste anything sweet. New York City's 911 system handles more than 11 million calls per year, making it the largest of its kind in the nation. In 1972, a few years after being elected to Congress, Shirley Chisholm became the first African-American woman to run for president. She never expected to win, but she ran to show that Americans could vote for an African-American woman.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends. Subscribe so you don't miss more interesting content. Leave your comments and click on any of these videos. See you next time.